TMS are usually going to include routing, scheduling the routes, as well as how to load the trucks to make sure you're going to be, delivering the right products in the right sequence and those kind of things.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. Where do you draw the line whether the enterprise software companies are the information processing, communication, or industry data repository platform? Also, is the role of TMS to provide you with the best rates, manage external supply chain, act as a control tower, or full-blown ERP for freight forwarders? Well, the reason why these platforms look so confusing is that what's TMS for a manufacturer could be very different from a TMS for a freight forwarder. So where does Descartes stand in its capabilities? And how does it compare with other supply chain solutions out there? In today's episode, we invited a panel of industry experts for a live discussion on LinkedIn to conduct an independent review of Descartes TMS capabilities. We covered many grounds, including the depth of functionality for a pure-play TMS system, as well as how ERP needs of freight forwarders are completely different. We also covered why TMS platforms are more of a data platform, along with the operational capabilities to manage the external supply chain, or maybe internal for 3PL companies. With that, let's get to the conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We review one vendor or the solution. And for today, we have a very interesting vendor. And this is the series that we have been doing, WMS TMS solutions. So for today, this is going to be the test of my French pronunciation, so I think it's called Descartes here. We have been playing games with French, German pronunciation, and they are always testing my skills. So today it's a Descartes TMS. So before we dig into that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my intro. Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. On that note, I will move to my friend Andy for his intro.
Thank you, Sam. My name's Andy Pratico. I've been involved in ERP software for manufacturers for all my life, and I've worked all around North America. I've probably worked with over 1,000 manufacturers, various ERP systems, and I've also got a published book that's on Amazon and helps people evaluate and uncover the truth about ERP software.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Andy. And if you're in the audience,
thanks for inviting me.
Of course. And if you're in the audience and joining for the first time, make sure you guys post your questions and comments. We typically try to cover them during the show. If you run out of time, Andy will reach out to you with his jokes. Okay, Andy. So I'm actually going to brief everybody on this one. These guys are very interesting as well, and we are always covering the interesting layers about these vendors. And I'll brief us in the room, you and me, today. Dave is not here. In terms of the layers that we have discovered in these WMS and TMS solutions that we have reviewed. So number one is that always the internal versus external supply chain. That's very common among WMS TMS systems. Some of them really focus on the four walls of supply chain. Some of them go slightly out of their way to attack the external supply chain. Okay, then we have the whole cloud native movement in the WMS TMS space as well. There are a lot of solutions that are doing really well. Obviously, they are cloud native, and that's probably the reason why they are getting market share as well. Then you have the whole debate about what is the supply chain solution. Some of them they integrate with a lot of different solutions. For example, some of them have POS, some of them have OMS, SNOP platform. This is probably the first platform which is a true TMS, okay? And TMS as a solution is very interesting. And Andy, I'm pretty sure you have seen some of the TMS solutions, especially in the SMB space. I mean, they are.
Yeah, yeah. In SMB, they're usually not very powerful.
Yeah. I mean, they are not necessarily the TMS solutions, but obviously there is a hole there that they are trying to fill, with very small module add-on, whatever you want to call that. But typically, the reason why the TMS solutions exist, especially in the SMB space, is going to be that rate shopping, and that's a big deal. Freight rate shopping. That is the number one driver why companies typically get multi-carrier integration add-on, where you are going to have the integration with a lot of trading partners, whoever you may be transacting with. Now, if you are going to be in the parcel space, and which is the other layer that we typically like to discuss, whether you are simply sort of the WMS TMS solution for e-commerce parcel centric companies, or are you also doing business in that 3PL space? So that's another layer. The solutions for e-commerce are going to be very different from the ones that are shipping bigger shipments, and doing 3PL, etc.
TMS are usually going to include routing, scheduling the routes, as well as how to load the trucks to make sure you're going to be, delivering the right products in the right sequence and those kind of things.
So there is a lot in a true TMS solution. So
Yeah.
far, whatever we have reviewed, I mean, they were claiming to be TMS solutions, okay, but they
Right.
were not real TMS solutions. So once you look at the real TMS solution, and there is a whole industry out there, that really run on TMS solution, okay. In fact, some of these TMS solutions, and you are going to be shocked to hear this, okay. They are really an ERP systems for those industries. Okay, they don't necessarily use an ERP system. So in fact, Descartes actually has an ERP system. Okay, that ERP system has an accounting module.
Oh,
With
really?
yes.
Wow.
But these businesses are so different. I mean, they don't have your traditional order where you are going to have a product, you are going to have a quantity. It doesn't work that way
No.
in
The
their.
service.
Well, so it's not necessarily a service either, to be completely honest. Okay,
No.
so when you look at the order for logistic company or the carrier company, the order is going to be, I don't know whether when you shipped anything last time, Andy. Okay, so you are going to say from, you are going to say to, you
Yeah.
are going to say how many different packages you have, you are going to have a rate, you are going to have a weight, you are going to mention a couple of things. Is it dangerous? How much value do you have? So you have the insurance kick in, right? So you remember that form? So that form is the order form for these companies, okay?
Right. I gotcha.
And then, by the way, the bill of lading that you have, for some companies, that could be an order form, to be completely honest, because that bill of lading is moving through the whole supply chain. And when you look at supply chain is, there are a lot of different players that are typically involved in supply chain, and people don't necessarily understand the people who don't understand supply chain as well. So number one, hop that you are going to have in the supply chain is always going to be road transportation. Okay, road transportation, when you look at domestic companies, it's easier. Okay, once you get to ocean, far more difficult. Air, far more difficult. Okay, and you have the reporting compliance requirements for everything when your goods are going to leave your country, your jurisdiction. Diction, sorry, I don't know. Again, that's throwing me off, I guess. Test of my pronunciation skills always, right, Andy? um, okay, so here, so obviously it gets very difficult when things move in that supply chain, and then you are going to have the custom brokerage issues you need to declare. You have the border control compliance issues, and sometimes the reporting that these companies need to do could be very similar to how you report to either SEC or
Hmm.
to your financial entity. The reports could be as involved as that.
Wow.
The TMS could be an ERP system. So you need an ERP system, plus you need an ERP system inside TMS to be able to do the compliance reporting. And that's where the real
Wow.
complexity is.
Subject to audits, I would assume.
Oh yeah. There are much bigger penalties when you look into like border control. When you have restrictions in terms of what you can ship, what you cannot ship, what you need to keep inside your FTZ. There is it's worse than actually electronic invoicing. To be completely honest, when you are doing your tax reporting, tax reporting could be easier than what you need to report for supply chain. So that's where the real complexity is. Not even if people are looking at some of the baby TMS system, they don't necessarily understand how complex it gets, to be completely honest. So that's what we are going to see in this particular solution. This is a real TMS, and it is one of the best, obviously. Andy, any comments before I move on to slides?
No, not at all. Let's
Okay.
have a look.
All right. So here, some of the industry verticals that they have listed where they really serve, and these are very unique industries. So number one, whenever you are going to have any sort of fleet operations, and fleet operations is where the real complexity is. In fact, if you look at any of the manufacturers, distributors, okay, for the most part, they don't like to mess with logistics and carriers because of the complexity. They are going to outsource pretty much everything. As soon as you get into logistics, crazy complexity, it's not worth it. Don't own the fleets if you don't have to outsource if possible. Okay. So that's how most manufacturers and distributors operate. But some of them, they might have issues. For example, let's say minimum order quantity. And that's why you have this whole issue of the last mile delivery, because there are some e-commerce companies, they might not even qualify, or the carriers are not going to even ship for them. And now they don't have a choice. But to buy bunch of carriers or vehicles that they are going to use to make sure that they are able to ship their goods, right? So that's where the whole last mile issue is there. And then you have the DSD that we saw in the case of Kerber as well, that they are doing DSD, which is direct store delivery. Some ERP systems might have the TMS functionality embedded as part of their solution. So we saw that. But these are very, very, very unique verticals where you are going to have the TMS capabilities that you require as part of your business model. And for them, sometimes the TMS capabilities might need to be far deeper. For example, let's say if you look at equipment rental, their whole business, this is a very field service business, okay? Their whole business is around field service, okay? It's about scheduling, it's about dispatch. That's where they make money. So they don't necessarily care for the other things as much. For example, warehouse, for example, your shop floor, they might not be manufacturing. So for them, everything is about field service. So when you are going to have those field service like verticals, they are going to require far deeper TMS capabilities. So you have equipment rental, you have leasing and recycling service providers, very similar business model. Document retention and secure destruction service providers. Now we need to dig into that, because see, Descartes is a very interesting company. So they have two different solutions, or maybe three, I should say. Number one, they obviously have TMS. Number two, they are very, very, very strong at EDI, document management. That's how I sort of knew them. Okay, so they are very strong there, and they serve some of the verticals where the only thing they are doing is that the EDI, document management. They are not even in the EDI play there. Okay, and then believe it or not, they could be CRM for some companies. Can you believe this? Okay, because these companies are trying to do is they own trade data. Okay, and that trade data could be very similar to your DNB, and I don't know which database you use, Andy, for your sales prospecting. Okay, but if you are in this space, you need to know how much everybody is shipping, because that's your indicator that, okay, is that going to be a good lead or a bad lead? So that
Right.
so
Wow.
they have all that insight. So that is coming from your bill of lading. Okay, so these guys mine all of those bill of lading, and they can figure out which country is shipping what, which company is shipping what, and all of those freight forwarders and people or the companies that are involved in the 3PL space are going to require that data and going to use it as CRM. Can you believe? So they are CRM, they are ERP, they are TMS. But you need to read between the lines, okay? They could be
Well,
CRM for, yeah.
the
Go ahead,
one
Andy.
point there, advanced ocean tracking. Wow, like this is pretty sophisticated stuff.
Yeah. So they are doing very, 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 very sophisticated stuff in terms of tracking. They must be very strong at, but they do a lot of, telematics, and they do RFID tracking, obviously. So each of the containers are going to emit, where that is, each of the fleet is going to emit. They are going to have hardware devices. That's how they sort of build the network, right? The whole network itself is a big deal. And they can track the exceptions. That's where the external supply chain is sort of handy. So a lot of vendors, when we look at the Blue Yonder, obviously Blue Yonder is known for their network. Manhattan.
QAD had some of this functionality too.
Yeah, that's where I guess the argument is going to be: do you want a TMS which is going to be the stepchild of ERP mother, or
Right.
do you want an ERP that is going to be stepchild of TMS mother? So depending upon the business
Either
model,
way, it's a stepchild.
right?
Yeah.
So that's where I guess you need to read between the lines. When you say CRM, when you say ERP, when you say TMS, it could mean a lot of different things. So again,
There's always overlap anyways.
Yeah,
right?
it goes back to the business model. It goes back to your transactions. What kind of transactions are you processing? Okay, that dictates what kind of system and architecture you are going to be needing. In your architecture, some systems are probably going to be main child, and some of them are going to be stepchild. That's how architecture works. Okay, so but make sure you are treating them whatever recognition they deserve, I guess. So here, obviously, this is very interesting: document retention and secure destruction service providers. Then you have inspection and maintenance service providers, and those are very field service centric companies. Field service is their bread and butter. Uniform, linen service providers. These are the companies that are supplying to your government entities, hospitals. They are big into field service. They are always going to have vans, that you will see around you, I guess, right? Then you are going to have clinical and medical pickup and delivery. Again, the only reason why they are there is because of that fleet TMS capability. Security, armored transport service providers, very field service centric, organizations, and field sales and merchandising organizations. So guys, now if you are going to guess, I mean, they overlap with IFS a lot because IFS has this functionality.
Okay.
Because they are really known in the field services space. So I don't know whether these guys hang out with IFS or not, because IFS has very strong field service capabilities, but I don't know if they can do TMS. So
it wouldn't surprise me. IFS is a pretty big system.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think they have like the TMS. Yeah, I mean, even Microsoft, if we go there, then Microsoft is going to claim that they have TMS capabilities embedded as part of ERP. But the TMS,
yeah, but that'll be a third-party bolt-on.
No, Andy. I mean, they do have TMS built in.
Is that right?
Huh. Yeah. Microsoft, Oracle. In fact, Infor-LN has some of it as well. To be completely, Infor-LN.
Infor has a standalone TMS system though too. So
yes. That's going to be similar to what these guys have. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's going to be control tower functionality, the network, the trading partner integration. So yes, you are right. But Infor-LN natively also covers some of this functionality. Okay. So that's where your architecture is going to be handy, whether you are going to do this in LN or are you going to do it in Nexus. So even inside Infor portfolio, you could have patches, how you want to structure this. So here, obviously the route planning and optimization is a big deal. Delivery appointment scheduling is a big deal. Descartes Global Logistics Network, logistics messaging is a big deal. Shipment management, shipment movement. These are like one of the top two objects that you are going to find in the 3PL space, and that's really big. They drive pretty much everything. The customs compliance, big, like, oh my goodness, you have no idea how complex it gets when you get into a real custom brokerage scenario. And there are companies, the only thing they do is custom brokerage compliance. Okay, they are consulting companies, but they are really, and again, it's so complex that you have companies who are dedicated to that. The whole rate management piece, the rules that you have for rate management, extremely complex.
I've worked with some, less expensive point solutions that are more manifest type systems, but nothing like this.
Yeah. I mean, they hardly do just the trading partner integration, rate shopping,
Rate shopping, put a UPS number on the, that's about it.
Okay, so obviously these guys are publicly traded. They are really big company. They are not small company, even though you might not hear about them unless you are in that field service TMS space or the supply chain space. So a couple of comments coming from their financial statements, right? So here, the way they are positioning themselves as logistics and supply chain management, business processes. Then you have the cloud-based. Cloud-based is a big deal, as I mentioned. I mean, the reason why these guys are doing so much business is because most of the TMS in the market, I mean, probably 60% of them are probably going to be on-prem even today. So obviously, these guys started as that, and they are winning a lot. So this is a very similar story as your high jump, I believe, right? That's the one that we reviewed with Kerber.
Yeah. Is this multi-tenant or single tenant?
I mean, they are playing in that SAP Oracle space. So these guys are
Okay.
like, I mean, so obviously SAP has their own TMS as well.
Yeah.
But when you are dealing at that level, then everybody's probably going to have the best of breed architecture. So these guys get installed alongside your SAP Oracle.
Mm,
Yeah. They are not even in
big
the, I mean,
players.
they're probably not going to take deal in the SMBs.
No,
Uh,
no, I wouldn't.
yeah.
No, it would be more expensive than the ERP. Way more.
Yeah. Depending upon whose ERP are we talking about. If you are talking about mid market, then it's a different story. Enterprise, they are paying a lot to obviously ERP companies. So here, they have used some of the keywords that I really wanted to hit on. So productivity, performance, and security of logistics intensive. That's the keyword that they have used, and that's the right keyword that they should be focusing on, which is logistics intensive. And logistics is going to be pretty much everything. These are not the companies that are going to be intensive in warehouse operations. Okay, from their perspective, the logistics is going to be again the transportation centric companies is what they are looking at. Customer use our modular software as a service. That's how they were always known. Okay, and data solutions to route, track, and measure delivery resources, plan, allocate, and execute shipments, rate, audit, and pay transportation invoices. And the whole concept about transportation invoices, when you are dealing in that 3PL space where these players are sort of doing business with each other, the road guy is doing business with the ocean guy is doing with 3PL, 4PL, with custom brokerage. So the way their invoices are, it's slightly different. Access and analyze global trade data, that itself is a big deal. That's a big market. And these guys, the reason why these guys are so powerful is because they have that trade data. I don't know if anybody in the industry is going to have as deep capabilities as these guys, and we'll review that. Okay. The import export, obviously, that's a big one. Security documents, customs. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The other thing that we have not touched is the multimodal functionality that you were talking about, Andy. That's a big
Hmm.
one in this space. Okay. All right. So the way they define logistics is the management of the flow of resources between a point of origin, and they have used term called people. Can you believe that? Okay, so they are calling people a resource. Okay, goods. So they are moving people, and in this particular case, people are probably going to be drivers. Because they are big input for TMS systems. They drive pretty much everything from your operational dispatch processes to your financial processes. That's why tracking those people is very, very, very critical for this system to work. Yeah. Now, they have used word procurement. I would probably not use that word in this context. Again, this is slightly, downstream from your WMS. So procurement that they are going to have, it's slightly different. Even the sourcing is going to be slightly different as well. Yes, they might do TMS component of procurement sourcing, but for the most part, they are not necessarily doing the procurement. So you need to understand where the solution is positioned in the architecture and what is going to be the role and which department is going to be interacting with it in what capacity. Okay, so here we are talking about regulatory initiatives mandating electronic filing of shipment information. So this is the same concept as your electronic invoicing. Okay, and again, it's a very, 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 very similar process, as complex, to be completely honest. And electronic invoicing is not there in the US right now, but for these guys, if you are trading with those countries, you probably need to file your shipment information electronically.
You mean like EDI capabilities or?
So EDI could mean a lot of different things. Okay, everybody is doing
Sure.
EDI, but EDI in what capacity? So here, what you are doing is, I mean, even in Canada and some of the states have compliance requirements. And what you need to do is, let's say if you are shipping electronics, okay, so some provinces, what they are going to require is, okay, if you are shipping in my province, then I want you to report how much electronics you have shipped, so I can charge carbon taxes, or I don't know which taxes. But in the electronic space, they have a compliance requirement. Whatever you are shipping in that province, you need to file that. Okay, so there is a report that goes in typically, and then you have to have the accountability per shipment. Okay, so that could be a very custom module that you need to have on top of your ERP to be able to compute that, because that's a very involved process. Now, if you are shipping 100 shipments, you can compute that in a spreadsheet. But if you are doing a million, good luck with that. That could be fairly involved. Um, and depending upon, and by the way, these things are always changing, right? They are always changing their rules because government is trying to analyze how they make more money. So that's what makes this functionality extremely tricky, because today somebody may have coded based on the regulations as of today, but if it change, then you have to again rewrite it, maintain it, based on the change in the rules, or you are going to get a lot of penalties. So here, this is going to be per shipment that you have to do based on your bill of lading. You need to file to every country where you are shipping, where you are crossing the borders. So again, it gets very, very, very involved. Okay, and they are looking for this information at each point when you are going to have the handshake between those intermediaries. They need to exchange this information with authorities, and this is a very similar functionality that we saw in the case of pharma, where they want that payload to be exchanged at each touch. So again, this is very, very, very. Now, what do we have here? Global trade intelligence is very interesting as well. And typically, there are going to be many different rules that you have to follow based on country requirements. What you can ship, what you cannot ship, and if you are going to ship anything mistakenly that is not allowed in that country, you could waste a lot of time because they are going to block it, they are going to call you. So it's not a fun process. That's why typically companies use third party. They manage all this. Yeah, but those third party are businesses as well, and they are really in that custom clearance space. So their processes are going to be very different. Now, this is the acquisition story from 2022, and they acquired a new vendor or the solution, and this was custom filing solutions in the US. So each of the authority that you're going to have, each of the countries are going to have their own filing requirements, and each of them are going to have sort of their own ERP, the way these rules are. So maybe these guys didn't have those capabilities, and that's the reason why they ended up acquiring Net CHB. That's how they are getting all of these capabilities in every single country that you might be interacting with. They paid a lot of money, $38.7 million, just to get that capability. Okay, so this is another acquisition that we have. This is the Foxtrot, a provider of machine learning based mobile route execution solution, and the whole optimization of route inside mobile or web. Obviously, that's very tricky as well. That's how these companies make money. They need to optimize how their shipments are going to be packaged. They need to optimize how their legs are hopping. They need to optimize their movements, and they also need to optimize the route. And again, that the algorithm is almost like Google Map. That's how complex it gets. And this is the value chain, and value chain could be very confusing overall. But obviously, this is from their perspective, the way they like to see things. So they are interacting with ocean, air, ground, rail. These are the stakeholders for them. They are interacting with shippers. They use the term shipper. So for them, shipper is going to be retailer, manufacturers, service providers, the companies that are really shipping. Then you have the government you have to deal with because you are reporting compliance. And then you have the intermediaries, which is going to be custom brokers, freight forwarders, forwarders and 3PLs. So that's again their perspective. Everybody's trying to build architecture from their perspective. In this case, this is their sort of view. Any comments, Andy?
No, that's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
A lot to it.
Yeah, I know. Now, this is another sort of diagram from their perspective, how they like to position themselves. Just be careful. Obviously, they are trying to position that, okay, before Descartes, you had a lot of communication happening, in and out between players, but then they have sort of simplified just because they have EDI. But EDI in this context is very different than what you would find, let's say, if you are dealing with WMS, or you are dealing with e-commerce, or you are dealing with ERP. That EDI capability is very, very, very different. So here the communication that you have is going to be, since these are B2B companies as well, and for the most part the whole idea of EDI is for that B2B communication. Where you have B2B communication is where EDI is going to be relevant, where you don't want to exchange your security credentials and you are, you want to communicate with these third party businesses. That's where EDI is really relevant, and that's why these guys are using EDI here for that communication as well. Okay, so now this is now every single geography that you are going to have, you are probably going to have the EDI and the e-procurement and e-invoicing solution as well. Again, these guys are very, very, very deep in EDI capabilities, and that's why they are able to do European EDI for e-procurement and e-invoicing between companies and with governmental instance. So these guys are trying to facilitate the process for e-invoicing. But e-invoicing is really the ERP process. So obviously these guys are sort of there, but I don't know why you would use them, because they are sort of trying to play in both the space. They are trying to play in EDI space, document space, plus TMS, which is slightly tricky overall from the architecture perspective. But the way these guys are trying to sort of illustrate this as Descartes is going to be in between, and then you have all of these connectors where you have SAP CC, SAP S4, and other ERP systems, and then you have all of these connectors that are communicating with trading partners. From their perspective, they are calling everybody trading partners, but in my mind, when I look at their trading partners, these are going to be logistics companies, 3PL, freight forwarders, not anybody else that you might be communicating with when you are looking at, let's say, WMS, e-commerce, ERP, communication, etc. But since these guys are so strong, I think that's the reason why they are able to do e-invoicing as well. Obviously, that's a very robust functionality that you would require. If you don't have any comment on this one, I'll move to the next one. Okay, so now this is the ERP that I was talking about, ND. Okay, so this is the ERP for freight forwarders. Okay, and freight forwarders are going to be the companies that are sitting in between. Sometimes they are going to be just the last mile providers. Sometimes what they are going to do is they are going to pick, let's say, your shipments from your dock, uh, from your ocean, and they are simply going to drop at your warehouse. That is their role overall from the communication perspective, but they need an ERP as well. Okay, so for them, ERP needs are going to be very different. The order process, the invoicing is going to be very different as well. So these guys provide ERP for them. And I think we are going to see the name of that, but they have the financials, the accounting, the EDI, the reporting. So the whole ERP solution for freight forwarders. Okay, but now if you have a business that you are doing a little bit of 3PL, you are doing warehouses, you are also doing freight forwarding, good luck with that business, because that could be very complex and you need to use two different ERPs. So this is where the business model complexity is always tricky, when you are going to have patches where you are not going to find one solution that can do all. So here, this is the purchase order management, but purchase order management is going to be from the freight forwarding perspective. Again, purchase order could mean a lot of different things. So the perspective is always important, but they are talking about purchase orders and achieve higher levels of warehouse performance. Okay, in their case, they might be mentioning a little bit of warehouse, but they are not really the WMS solution. Okay, so they are doing consolidation, but consolidation more from the freight forwarding perspective. Okay, not really the distribution consolidation. So even consolidation could mean a lot of different things. Okay, depending upon the industry, depending upon the use case. Here they are doing monitor stock, very different process, the way it would work, let's say, inside the warehouse. So again, pay attention to the terms and how they are being used. The context, the business model, the transactions are super critical. Visibility, supplier connectivity. Okay, so now we have some more screens here, and this is what I was talking about. So they have, Oracle has a GTM solution and the SAP has a GTS solution. So they do a lot of things from the global trade perspective, but they are not going to have data that these guys have. So companies require these guys as well. So I think the reason why they are buying Descartes on top of SAP Oracle, because they are going to do the process component and these guys are going to provide the real data, because SAP Oracle, they don't have this data that is owned by Descartes. So here, one of the things that you are going to notice is comprehensive repository of HTS code. Okay, and those HTS codes is very, very unique capability that these guys have. Okay, they drive pretty much everything in the freight forwarding transportation space. So if you don't have that data, you have to work with these. You don't have a choice. You're going to get duty rates, tariffs, binding rulings, trade agreements, and regulations. And that is the reason why these guys are installed with SAP and Oracle. Then you have Descartes supply chain lead generation. Can you believe this? Okay, so they are doing lead generation for freight forwarders because they have intelligence that nobody else has in the market. Okay, so now this becomes a CRM. Can you believe this? So it becomes very, 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 very confusing. Okay, are you talking about CRM or are you talking about TMS? But CRM for a freight forwarder is a very different piece of software than a CRM for a manufacturer or retailer. So again, context is very important. Okay, so now the whole FTZ, the foreign trade zone functionality, is very involved. The way it works is you are going to have a separate area inside your warehouse. You are going to call FTZ, and typically that is going to be duty free. You are sort of keeping that stock for some time so that you don't have to pay tariff. For some time you can delay that basically. That's the intent. So now the mapping that, because there are going to be compliance requirements around that as well in terms of how you are going to manage, you need very sophisticated software when you are going to be really large and you are managing FTZ zone and FTZ sort of compliant goods for your customers as well. That becomes very, very, very involved functionality in general, and you need to file the compliance for that as well. Very, 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 very deep capabilities. So here they are talking about proactive management of custom controlled inventory. And when you say customs controlled inventory, that is going to be the one that is sitting in your foreign trade zone. And movement, whether you are a self filling importer or logistics service provider offering value added services, Descartes FTZ software and bonded warehouse solutions can help business manage the entire custom controlled inventory process. Okay, any comments?
Nope.
No?
Very detailed stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely. Okay. So here they are talking about this US security filing. Obviously, that is very involved as well. So here they are talking about multimodal security filing regulations in the US. Okay. You are going to have air cargo advanced screening, ACAS, very deep. Okay. Again, when you get into the real border crossing scenario, if you are managing your own logistics, when you are going to be Fortune 500 organization, most likely you are going to be maintaining your own fleet. And when you do that, again, you need TMS. Okay, so they have a lot of different things. Importer security filing, you have air automated manifest systems, ocean AMS, and these are some of the capabilities that you are going to see in this space. So you definitely would require that. If you're really deep into that TMS capabilities, or you are a business, around logistics or transportation, very, very, very different business. Okay, so this is where now some people are going to be shocked that, okay, this is and I think this is called LJAX, if I remember correctly. Descartes, yes, LJAX is the solution. ERP for smaller freight brokers. When you are going to become big, then I don't know what you are going to use. It's going to be really challenging. But for smaller freight brokers, they are providing the accounting capabilities. So this is the ERP system that you are probably going to use as the freight broker, where you are going to need things such as your shipment visibility, capacity sourcing, very different capabilities than your traditional manufacturer retailer ERP. This is going to be your lane pricing, carrier management, automated order entry, very, very, very different ballgame. But these guys are going to have accounting as well. So they are ERP for freight forwarder. Now, this is the data that I was talking about, ND. So this one is the global trade analytics. So here you have the HS code, and those HS code can provide you insight about pretty much everything. Okay, which country is shipping what, which company is shipping what to what country. So you can get a lot of competitive intel here, not just between countries, but also between companies, between your product categories. Because what these guys have done is they have taken all of those bill of lading and they have put in one database, and you can analyze all the layers that you are going to have at the bill of lading level. So one of the common topic that is discussed in this community is going to be trade variance. Okay, so now trade variance is a big topic for supply chain folks. So obviously they have this intel, this insight, and most supply chain folks are going to love this because they are making a lot of decisions based on this data, this intel. Then you have data per country, export, import, plan your supply chain. Who's trading with whom. We have already discussed that. Okay. So here, this is the same, screenshot, and this is coming from bill of lading. So bill of lading is going to have all of these components where you are also going to have a consignee, the shipper information, whoever is shipping this, what they have shipped to whom, what is going to be your port of arrival. So a lot of intelligence that you can get from, okay, that you can use to make supply chain decisions. And if you are in that business, then you can probably use them to get some of the leads as well. Okay, so some of the reviews. So here, this one is coming from 2021, the logistics platform of this age. This is the company name is Edge Logistics, and they are 51 to 200 employees. They are using it for, they are saying, allowing us to set tracking intervals, choosing the correct time zones, giving us an almost real-time location of the trucks with few clicks. Okay, telematics, document management is where their bread and butter is. They really do well in that space. So that's why these guys are using there as more of the telematics, solution. So here, hassle-free mobile application, location of a truck in a map view, which is a big deal. Identify possible delays to stops. That's a big deal as well, because that's where money is for transportation companies. When those trucks are going to sit idle, obviously they don't like it, because again, that's a money for them. So here we have the control tower view. But again, the control tower view that you are going to get here combine all of those stakeholders in your supply chain. I don't know if other systems can do at this level, but obviously, number one, you have the control tower, you have the map view, you have the sensors that are emitting the information to know the location, and then you have the HS code data that they are most likely overlaying on top of this. So very, very, very powerful stuff from the supply chain perspective. So they are using the event management. I think some companies have used exception management. So I think those two are similar terms. Then you have the ELD, real-time information, and that is the data that these trucks are emitting. Analysis of shipment data. That's the database that we were talking about. Now, some of the comparables that they had considered is, again, these are very, very, very different solutions that you are only going to find if you are in transportation, logistics, supply chain. So here they are talking about Samsara for fleet, Samsara VS2. Then you have Four Kites predictive visibility platform. But again, for these platform, the analytics, the AI, the ML is a need just because they have so much data, and AI ML can do so much with these platforms. So here they have one more comment: reliable, accurate, and well-based amount of information of the fleet, integrating a wide view of transportation inventory. I'll be careful in using the term inventory. That could mean a lot of different things. But here they are talking about inventory that they are shipping, that they are managing. Then they are using this in conjunction with Oracle Transportation Management Cloud. Can you believe? Okay, so they have used this platform only for getting the information from their trucks, as well as most likely for data as well. But they are using the TMS cloud from Oracle. Okay, so how a system is being used, you need to be really careful in that. Obviously, these guys are going to be used, as the database. That's number one. Telematics, the EDI, and sometimes they might be used as TMS as well. But in most cases, I think they are used in conjunction with your Oracle SAP. They also have a power broker. They have a gateway, and I'm not familiar with them, what they do. They must be doing some sort of communication. Okay, so that's it for this session. So Andy, I don't know if you are going to have any sort of comments. I have one comment here.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, you got the TMS system. It's basically, like you say, it's almost an ERP in itself. It's targeted at probably Fortune 1000 size companies, I would guess.
Yeah, this is definitely big, depending upon what your business model is. So even if you're going to be a very small freight forwarder, probably you need this one more than an ERP. So depending, again, it's the business model that matters, and the transactions, and where you have the complexity in your architecture. So Fortune 500 could mean a lot of different things as well. If you are going to be Fortune 500 in the logistics space, you definitely need this. If you're a manufacturer that has large fleet, transportation processes, you probably need this. If you're a manufacturer and outsourcing the TMS component completely, you probably don't need this.
You don't need it. No.
Yeah. Okay, so we have one comment from Anders. So here he is asking, do they have the ability to integrate with other location providing systems? Is there some kind of API for choosing alternate? So again, the level that you are dealing here, obviously they are going to have API. That's not a it's a large system. And when you say other locations, so we need to know which locations those are. But anything that is going to be part of control tower, for the most part, when you look at the supply chain, for them, the control tower is going to be anything that is part of supply chain, meaning every single stakeholder, the vehicles, the containers, all of that is sort of part of that control tower functionality. So they are going to be tracking and working with all of those trading partners as well as the stakeholders. But anything that is going to be out of their purview, they are probably not going to track that. Okay, can they integrate? Sure, you can do whatever you want, but the perspective is really important in terms of what they are trying to do with that control tower functionality. API for choosing alternates, I would say that's their bread and butter, to be completely honest, because they are really doing the route optimization. So obviously, you are going to have a lot of different rules that you can set up in terms of how you want to do those hops and legs, because that's where the money is. Okay, each of the route that you are going to choose is going to drive your freight spend. Okay, so and by the way, the way you are going to be packaging your shipments, the way you are going to be moving, it's very, very, very deep and complex. The way they manage, and they have like the rule in which they are configuring the rules, and these are not going to be just 5 rules. Those are probably going to be 5,000 or maybe 50,000 rules that they are setting up. So it's very, very, very deep. Any other comments, Andy, or shall we wrap?
No, that's a big system. Do you have any idea what kind of price point it is?
No, I don't know how they price, to be completely honest. Yeah, but I mean, obviously it's going to be really expensive. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
I mean, they are playing in that SAP Oracle space, so it's definitely not SMB solution. But when you look at transportation companies, Andy, they have decent IT spend, to be completely honest. Okay, transportation companies are far harder to manage than your retail distribution companies. Even if you are going to be a very small company, they probably have much higher IT spend. I personally have seen disasters inside transportation companies. They were trying to do similar things. They tried to build their own systems, to be completely honest. Okay, it was closer to $1 billion or probably slightly more than billion. Okay, but again, $1 billion is nothing. I mean, to be completely honest, from the IT complexity perspective, I have seen manufacturers and distributors that are using like tier 4 ERP system, and their IT spend is going to be probably 200,000 per year, and they are somehow able to manage. You cannot do that in the transportation, logistics, supply chain. You definitely need to spend a lot more. Because of the complexity, because of the number of inputs that they have, the dispatch process is very, very complex. The rule engine is very complex. Again, if you go to these guys, obviously they have done it multiple times, so it's much easier. Don't try to build this yourself. You have no idea what it is. Any other comments, Andy?
No. Nice targeted point system and world class, obviously.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, all right, guys, just to wrap, that's it for today. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another system or a vendor. On that note, thanks everyone for tuning in tonight.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Andy Pratico, head over to esoft.com. It's esoft.com. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to get you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.